The God of the universe never once said "fear not" into safety. He said it into the fire. Every single time. The empty cradle, the dry water skin, the dead leader, the storm at 3 in the morning. Never the calm moment. Always the worst one. And he never promised the danger was fake. He promised something else entirely. 2 words spoken into every dark night anyone has ever had, including the one you might be sitting in tonight. It is the middle of the night outside a town called Bethlehem, and a handful of men are sitting in a field with their sheep. These are not important men. Shepherds worked the night shift because somebody had to, and the somebody was always the lowest somebody available. They smell like the animals. Their names will never be written down. And on this particular night, they are doing what they have done 1,000 nights before. Watching, waiting, staying awake so the flock can sleep. And then the sky tears open. Light pours down where there should only be stars. A figure is standing in the air above them, and the brightness coming off is not the soft glow of a candle. It is the kind of light that makes grown men throw themselves face down into the wet grass and cover their heads. Luke, who wrote this down, uses a phrase that means they were terrified out of their minds. Not nervous, not startled, undone. And the first thing the figure says to them, before the good news, before the baby, before any of it, is 2 words: fear not. Here's what most people miss. Those 2 words are not unique to that field. They are not unique to that night. That same phrase, spoken into that same kind of terror, runs all the way through the Bible like a thread. Someone pulled through the whole thing on purpose. A frightened slave woman in a desert hears it. An old man with no children hears it. A soldier standing on the wrong side of a river hears it. A teenage girl hears it. And at the very end of the whole book, on a black volcanic rock in the middle of the sea, an old man, the last of his kind, exiled and alone, will fall on his face before a voice so overwhelming he cannot stand. And he will hear those same 2 words. But here is the strange part about that last one. That old man on the island had heard that exact voice once before. Years earlier, on a different shore. We will get to that voice. But not yet. Because this is not a story about a number. People love to count these. They will tell you God says, "Fear not," 365 times in the Bible, 1 for every day of the year, and it makes a lovely thing to put on a coffee mug, and it isn't actually true. So this is not a story about a number. This is not a story about a single verse you can underline. And this is not a story about a command to simply calm down and stop feeling what you feel. The Hebrew underneath most of these moments is a phrase, al-tira, and it does not mean relax. It does not mean your fear is silly. It means something closer to this. Do not let the dread become your master. Do not hand it the keys. This is a story about every time the God of the universe leaned down into the single worst moment of a real person's life. The moment the water ran out, the moment the diagnosis came, the moment everything they were counting on fell apart, and said 2 words into the dark. So stay with me, because once you see when he says them, and to whom, you are never going to hear those 2 words the same way again. To find the first time, you have to go back about 2,000 years before that field outside Bethlehem. There is a man named Abram. He is old, well past the age when men in his world expected to be holding grandchildren, and he has no children at all. None. He has been promised a son. He has been promised descendants, like the stars. And every year that promise looks more like a cruel joke, because his wife is past the age of bearing, and his own body is failing, and the math simply does not work anymore. And you already know how that feels. The fear that you will run out of time before the thing you were promised ever arrives. He has just come home from a war. He rescued his nephew. He turned down a fortune. And now the adrenaline is gone, and he is alone in the dark, with the one thought that has haunted him for years. What if it never happens? What if I die with nothing? What if the promise dies with me? And the voice comes to him in a vision. Fear not, Abram. I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. Sit with what God does not say there. He does not say, Abram, here is your son, problem solved. The son will not come for years. He does not hand him the answer. He hands him himself. I am your shield. I am your reward. The fear was about an empty future, and God answers it with a present person. That is the pattern, and you are going to watch it repeat. But it gets stranger, because the next person to hear these words is about as far from Abram as you could get, and she is not even an Israelite. Her name is Hagar. She is an Egyptian slave, and she has just been sent out into the wilderness with her young son and a skin of water. And the water is gone. You need to feel how final this is. There is no town. There is no well. There is no one coming. So she does the only thing a mother in that position can do. She puts the boy under a desert bush so he is out of the sun, and then she walks away. She walks the distance of a bow shot, far enough that she will not have to watch him die, close enough that she cannot stop herself from listening. And she sits down, and she lifts up her voice, and she weeps. This is the lowest moment in the whole desert. A slave, a discarded woman, a dying child, no name, no status, no hope. And out of the silence, fear not. For God hath heard the voice of the lad. God heard the boy. And then he opens her eyes, and there is a well of water that was there the whole time. But here's the part nobody tells you. Hagar does something in that moment that no one else in the entire Bible does. She gives God a name. She calls him Elroy, the God who sees me. A throwaway slave woman alone in a desert is the first human being recorded to look at God and say, "You are the one who sees." Not the priests, not the kings. Her. Stay with me, because the stakes are about to jump. Move forward a few hundred years. A man named Joshua is standing at the edge of the Jordan River, and the greatest leader his people have ever known, Moses, is dead. For 40 years, Joshua stood behind that man, carried his bags, guarded his tent. And now the tent is empty, and 2 million frightened, grumbling, exhausted people are looking at Joshua, and on the other side of that river are walled cities and giants, and every reason to run. And the voice that spoke to Moses now speaks to him. Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. Notice it again. Same promise. Not the cities are empty. Not the giants are gone. The giants are absolutely still there. The promise is 4 words underneath the command. I am with thee everywhere you go. One frightened man worried about his legacy. One discarded woman watching her child die. One reluctant soldier staring down a nation of enemies. 3 completely different people, 3 completely different terrors, and the same 2 words carrying the same impossible promise underneath. Not safety. Presence. If you are seeing the pattern now, do me one favor before we keep going. Subscribe, because we go through the Bible like this every week, not as a textbook, but as the real, terrifying human thing it actually was. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments which of these 3 you needed to hear today. The old man afraid he'd built nothing. The mother who thought no one saw her. Or the one standing at the edge of something he never asked to lead. I read these. I'm curious which one found you, because the next one changes the language entirely. Fast forward again. Now we are in Babylon, far from home, and the man we are watching is old. His name is Daniel. As a young man, he was dragged out of his homeland in chains and made to serve the empire that destroyed his city. He survived kings. He survived a den of lions. And now, decades later, he is an old man standing on the bank of a great river. And he has spent 3 weeks in mourning. No bread, no meat, no wine. He is wrung out. Empty. You have probably never been that empty. Or maybe you have. And then he looks up. And standing across the water is a being whose face is like lightning and whose eyes are like fire. And the men with Daniel scatter and hide. And Daniel himself collapses. The text says all his strength left him. He falls to the ground with his face in the dirt. An old man with nothing left in the tank. A hand touches him, and the voice says, "Fear not, Daniel." And then 4 words you should never forget. O man greatly beloved. Think about that. An exhausted old man, face down in the mud at the end of himself, and heaven's word for him is not, get up, you're embarrassing yourself. It is beloved, greatly beloved. The fear is met, again, not with a fixed circumstance, but with a relationship. You are seen. You are loved. Do not be afraid. And this is where it gets remarkable. Because up to now, every one of these has been spoken in Hebrew. The phrase is altira, do not let dread master you. Abram heard it in Hebrew. Hagar, Joshua, Daniel, Hebrew. For more than 1,000 years, in one language, the same two words. And then the Bible changes languages. The Old Testament ends. 400 silent years pass, no prophet, no voice, nothing. And when God finally speaks again, he speaks in Greek. And the very first thing out of heaven's mouth, after 4 centuries of silence, is the Greek version of the exact same phrase. Me phobou, do not be afraid. The language changed. The promise did not. Here's the part nobody tells you. The first person to hear it in this new language is a teenager. Her name is Mary. She is a girl in a forgettable town, probably 13 or 14 years old, engaged to a carpenter, with no money and no power and no reason on earth to expect a visit from anyone, let alone an angel. And the angel appears and tells her she is going to carry the Son of God. And Luke says she was troubled, deeply shaken, trying to work out what kind of greeting this even was. And Gabriel says it. Me phobou, Mary. Fear not, for thou hast found favor with God. Look at who keeps receiving these words. Not the powerful, not the priests in the temple, a slave in a desert, an old man in the mud, a teenage girl in a town no one respected. God keeps saying fear not to the people the world overlooks entirely. And he is not done widening the circle, which brings us back to where we started. That field, those shepherds, because now you know they were not the first to hear it. They were standing at the end of a very long line, but something is different this time. Every fear not before this had been spoken to one person. Abram, Hagar, Joshua, Daniel, Mary, one frightened individual at a time. But to the shepherds the angel says, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. All people. Not one man. Not one woman. Not one nation. For the first time, the two words crack wide open and spill out over everyone. The fear not that started with a single childless man in a tent is now being announced over the whole human race. So understand what you have actually been watching. This is not a collection of nice verses that happen to share a phrase. This is not a coincidence of translation. And this is not a God who only shows up for the heroes with their names in gold. This is one voice speaking the same promise as in 2 languages across 2,000 years, bending down again and again to the most frightened and forgotten people in the room. And if you are still with me this far in, comment with just the word seen. I want to know how many of you needed to hear that God keeps showing up for the overlooked ones, because I think it's more of you than anyone admits. There is one more thing, because so far, every voice we have heard has come from heaven down to earth. An angel, a vision, a being of fire. But the loudest fear not in the entire Bible is not going to come from an angel at all. It is going to come from a man these people knew. A man with a face and a name and scars. And one of the people who hears him say it is going to be that old man we left on the island, still waiting. It is the 4th watch of the night. That means somewhere between 3 and 6 in the morning, the darkest, coldest, loneliest stretch of the dark, the hours when fear feels biggest and help feels furthest away. A small boat is being beaten to pieces in the middle of a lake. The wind is against it. The waves are coming over the sides. And the men rowing have been fighting this storm for hours, soaked and exhausted and afraid. And one of those men is a young fisherman named John. And then somebody sees it, a figure, out on the water, walking. They scream. Of course they scream. Dead men do not walk on lakes. And their first thought is that this is a ghost coming for them across the waves. The terror in that boat is total. You would have screamed too. They are already drowning in their fear, before the figure even reaches them. And across the water, over the howl of the wind, comes a voice. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Now hold on to this, because it matters for what comes next. That is not an angel speaking. That is not a vision of fire. That is a man they have eaten breakfast with. A man whose voice they would know anywhere. And John is sitting right there in that boat, soaked to the skin, hearing that voice say those two words over the storm. Be not afraid. He will not forget that voice. Not ever. Hold that thought, because I want to talk about your boat for a second. You know this water. Maybe not a lake. Maybe a hospital hallway at 2 in the morning, under those lights that never turn off, waiting for someone to come out and tell you something you are terrified to hear. Maybe it's the phone that won't ring, or the one that did. Maybe it's the ceiling you've been staring at for 3 hours while everyone else in the house sleeps, doing the math on a problem that has no good answer. Everyone has a fourth watch of the night. Everyone has been in a boat that the wind was winning. And here is what every single one of these moments in the Bible has been quietly telling you. When the voice comes, it almost never says the storm is fake, or the water is shallow, or your fear is silly. The storm is real. The diagnosis is real. The grief is real. What the voice says is something else entirely. It is I. I am here. You are not alone in this boat. Which finally brings us back to the island. Decades have passed. Every other disciple is dead, killed for what they believed, one by one. Only one is left. John. He is an old man now, the last living eyewitness, and the Roman Emperor Domitian has had him exiled to a tiny island of black volcanic rock in the middle of the sea, a place called Patmos. The historian Eusebius records this exile as real history, the old apostle sent to die alone on a prison rock. And on that rock, on the Lord's day, John hears a voice behind him like a trumpet. He turns, and he sees the Son of Man with eyes like fire and a face like the sun shining in full strength. And John, the last of the 12, the man who had seen everything, falls down at his feet like a dead man. The same collapse as Daniel by the river. The same collapse as the shepherds in the field. The strongest survivor of them all, flat on the ground, undone. And a hand touches him, and the voice says, Fear not, I am the first and the last. And here is the thing I have been waiting this whole video to tell you. John had heard that voice before. He had heard it across a storm, in the fourth watch of the night, when he was a young man in a sinking boat. He had heard it at a dinner table, the night before everything fell apart, when John leaned his own head against this man's chest. That voice. The same voice. After all the angels, all the visions, all the beings of fire. The loudest fear not in the entire Bible comes from the one who said it on the water. The one with the scarred hands now reaching down to lift up a terrified old man on a lonely rock at the end of the world. The fear not that started in a tent with one childless man ends here. Not with an angel, not with a stranger, with a face John knew. With a voice John loved, saying the only 2 words that have ever actually mattered in the dark. I am here. Do not be afraid. So before you go, take 3 things with you. The first one is simple, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. God never says fear not into safety. He says it into the fire. Every single time, those 2 words show up at the worst moment, not the calm one, the empty cradle, the dry water skin, the dead leader, the storm, the prison island. If you are waiting to feel safe before you stop being afraid, you have it backwards. The promise was never meant for the calm. It was built for the storm. The second one is for you personally. Notice what God never once promised. He never said the danger was fake. He never said the giants were gone, or the water would last, or the boat would not be hit. Not one of these people got told their fear was foolish. What they got was a person. I am your shield. I am with you. O man greatly beloved. It is I. The answer to fear in the Bible is almost never an explanation. It is a presence. And that means the thing you are most afraid of right now does not have to disappear for you to not be alone in it. You don't have to fix it to stop being alone in it. And the third one is the one I actually need you to hear. That voice, the one on the water, the one at the table, the one on the island, has not changed. It is not a voice locked inside an old book about people who died thousands of years ago. It is the same voice. And the staggering claim of the entire Bible is that it is still saying the same two words, right now, into whatever fourth watch of the night you are sitting in tonight. The same voice that lifted a terrified old man off a rock at the end of the world is bending down toward you, saying the only thing it has ever really said into the dark. So let me ask you, out of all of them, Abram in his tent, Hagar in the desert, Joshua at the river, Daniel in the mud, Mary in her little house, the shepherds in the field, John on the island, which fear not hit you the hardest? Which one found you where you actually are? Tell me below. I read them, and I think the answer is going to surprise both of us. 2 words, spoken into every dark night anyone has ever had, still being spoken into yours. Fear not.